So just again, this meeting is being recorded and we will be posting this to the project website following or within the next couple days following the meeting. Another housekeeping item, everyone throughout the presentation, all attendees will be muted. If at any time you'd like to ask a question for people joining us via computer or a web browser, please feel free to enter your question into the Q&A box. This is on your control panel. You will see that on the control panel and it will say Q&A and look like two chat boxes. From there, you can enter any questions. We will be holding questions to the end of the presentation, and we do ask that questions tonight be directed towards the subject matter, which is focused on the drilling and pre-blasting. For anyone joining us by phone, if you'd like to ask a question following the presentation, please press *9. That will allow you to raise your hand and be called on. And during the question and answer session, we will be calling on people who'd like to ask their question aloud. Also, for anyone joining us by computer or web browser, you can hit the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask your question aloud. Anyone joining us in person, when we get to the Q&A portion, if you could please raise your hand, and a member of our team, I believe Nick is in the room, and he'll be fielding the questions so that you can ask them aloud to everyone in attendance, both online and in person. So again, welcome everyone to the project update, drilling and blasting activities meeting, this project information meeting on September 14th, 2021. I'd now like to hand the presentation over to Mike LaCroix, the project manager.
Thank you, Delia. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending. We appreciate this opportunity to reach out to you folks regarding this project and regarding what we're going to talk about tonight, the drilling and blasting that's going to be forthcoming. Just a real quick on introductions before I get into just a quick 2-minute update on where we are with construction on the project. My name is Michael LaCroix. I'm the project manager for Vermont Agency of Transportation. Project engineer is Ben Teets. And if any of these folks that I list tonight are in person at BED, please feel free to raise your hand when I call on you. Representing the city of Burlington is Department of Public Works is Laura Wheelock and Olivia DeReese. Our public outreach officers are from WSP. Delia has already made herself known, and Nick Sherrick is in attendance as well. And we have Megan Savage, who's also leading that team as well. Part of the V-Trans construction staff is our resident engineer, Josh Hewitt, and the deputy if you will, resident engineer is Kara Yelenek. Tonight with us is the contractor, the prime contractor, SD Ireland, and Matt Wheeler and Kurt Hutchins are in attendance. And tonight we also are accompanied by their subcontractor, which specializes in the drilling and blasting from Capitol Rock, Alani Kachuk. So I'll just give a real quick brief update on where we are on the project and just reiterate the schedule. As folks who live in this area or drive through this intersection are probably already aware. Work began about a month ago. And we're progressing nicely after week 6 or 7 now. We're focusing our work activities on the streets, primarily through the work week. We're trying to avoid the weekends if we can. It may be required at times, so we just want to warn folks that Saturday work may be allowed. And we're trying to work between 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. typically. Night work might be allowed. We have had to work one night already. That was primarily to avoid heavy vehicle traffic because we were working in the lanes. We're trying to keep those nighttime work periods to a minimum. And then there will probably be some level of winter work as well. Winter work would be defined as any work after December 1st. And of course, anything with construction, as this is a very complicated, complex project, the schedule is always subject to change based on weather conditions. And Currently, our anticipated completion date for construction is June 2023. So just real quick, what we've done in the first month of construction is actually quite a bit. Archaeologically speaking, we've done some excavation to assist UVM and their group of archaeologists to come on site and retrieve some historical artifacts from the project area so that they're not lost or destroyed during construction. And I believe that work is already completed in its entirety. They have UVM has removed those artifacts and has transported them safely to wherever they deposit those artifacts. We also recently completed some contaminated soil and groundwater cleanup at the old Rotary Golf site at 82, I believe, Shelburne Street, which is the southeast corner of the intersection. And so that old gas station had some tanks that leaked. We worked with the Department of Environmental Conservation. We excavated and regraded the contaminated area on that private property. We have done some street work already. We've already removed the old rotary, the old raised island that's out there, and we've done some work on traffic patterns, as most folks probably are aware of. And the bulk of the work so far has been utilities. We've performed some sewer, water line, stormwater work on both Gove Court and Locust. And then finally, what we've found so far is that we're running into ledge as anticipated during the construction of some of that storm and water and sewer work, and which leads us to why we're meeting today. We are going to have to remove that bedrock in a lot of places. Some of it is very shallow, and a lot of it is in close proximity to houses and buildings and other buried infrastructure. So we understand that blasting could be conceived as being very disruptive and destructive, but as we're going to explain to you tonight, that it doesn't necessarily have to be. And we have a plan in place to remove as much bedrock as we possibly can. And then finally, my last piece here tonight is that if you didn't join us during our July 1st public meeting, we were talking about a pre-blast survey. And this map here is a little small, but essentially, if you live or work within 500 feet of the project limits, we can have the contractor come out and perform what's called a pre-blast survey, where they come and inspect your property, your foundation, your structure, to see what sort of condition it is prior to us blasting. We want to make sure that we are not negatively impacting properties and structures by our work. And so this gives us a good baseline to base those sort of impacts on. And then I believe this is where I turn it over to SD Ireland, Matt Wheeler. They're going to put on a presentation getting into the specifics on the drilling and blasting. Thank you for your time again.
Thank you, Mike. So my name is Matt Wheeler. I'm with SD Ireland. I'm a project manager. You have seen us working out there diligently trying to install utilities. And like Mike said, we've run into ledge a little sooner than anticipated. So we're having this meeting now to give you folks a little overview of what we anticipate and duration and details, and answer any questions that you may have. I have Lonnie with Capital Rock Drilling and Blasting, and after I'm done the presentation, general overview for the drilling and blasting. If there are any questions that get into real details, I'll turn it over to the professional and let Lonnie answer those questions. So let's begin. So the project details. So we're relocating the underground utilities and installing new underground stormwater, sewer, and water systems. One of the main reasons for the blasting, some of the underground structures are much deeper than where the top of the ledge is. Some structures are as deep as 20 feet deep, being storm structures in detail. Some of the bedrock varies, but it is as shallow as 2 feet in some areas. What is blasting? Blasting is a series of small controlled explosions used to shatter rock. We will keep the blasts underground and contained. When the blasts go off, typically all you'll hear is a very low rumbling. Blasting is not like you see on TV or in the movies. There's no visible fireballs. There's no major dust other than the usual construction activity, and there's no flying debris. Buildings will not shake and rattle like an earthquake, and blasting will not be loud. Where will blasting occur? During the current construction phase, we've identified ledge on the west side of Shelburne Road, Shelburne Street, from Locust Street all the way to Adams Court. During the remainder of construction, be it late fall work, winter work, and early spring, we expect to find ledge all throughout the project, mostly on Shelburne Street, some on South Willard, and some on Ledge Road. We haven't identified any major pockets of ledge on Gove Court or Locust Street currently, other than at the intersection of Shelburne Street. Why is blasting being conducted? Blasting is the most efficient way to remove rock. One blast can fracture rock that would take days or weeks using mechanical methods. Mechanical methods similar to what you see in the picture, which is called a pneumatic hammer or a rock hammer, has been used and it's proving to be very inefficient. We basically get 1 to 2 yards of rock out of the hole in a day of blasting, and that's after pre-drilling. It's very hard rock. There's thousands of feet of underground utilities that we need to install, and blasting will expedite this process and the project in general. How will blasting be conducted? There will be a series of small blasts. Delays are set between each blast to lessen the vibration. Blasts will be contained with blasting mats, which are placed over the top of the blasting area, similar to what you see in the picture. Those mats are basically recycled vehicle tires that are cabled together. They're very heavy. Blasting mats contain any debris from leaving the work area. When will blasting occur? Blasting is restricted to weekdays during non-peak vehicle traffic hours. Monday through Friday, excluding holidays, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only after proper warning and safety measures are in place, then you will hear audible signals before blasting. Traffic will be held clear and or detoured around the blasting zone. There will be spotters at sidewalks to stop any pedestrians. And then we will give confirmation that the area is clear and then release pedestrians and vehicles to pass through the area. Who will be doing the blasting? Capital Rock Drilling and Blasting. They're based in New Hampshire. They provide blasting service in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont. Many of their drillers and blasters have over 25 years of experience and have completed many similar projects in residential areas and New England cities like Boston, Mass, and Manchester, New Hampshire. They're currently working on very similar projects with V-Trans this year. They have experience with this type of confined blasting and this type of rock. What can you expect during blasting? Well, we'll be doing lots of preparation. We'll be utilizing audible signals to warn of the blasting. We will be holding traffic, vehicle and pedestrians, and or detoured. We will have many employees checking to make sure the area is clear. And the residences within the project area will be notified of the blasting schedule. When we blast, you will hear a small rumble in the ground. The existing rock is very hard and brittle. Small delayed charges will be used, and blasting mats will contain any debris. What precautions are being taken? Pre-blast surveys are being conducted at adjacent properties within 500 feet of the blasting zone. Seismographs are deployed throughout the project area to ensure vibration limits are not being exceeded. We are coordinating with utility companies to be present on site to manage any necessary shutoffs. Residents will be given prior notice of any planned utility shutoff. After a blast, the area will be cleared by blasting specialists. They will ensure there are no undetonated charges, and only after clearance will motorists and the general public be allowed in the area. And now we will open up to questions.
Thanks so much, Matt. Just before we start questions, I wanted to remind everyone who may have joined us after the initial housekeeping items. If you're joining us from a computer or web browser and you'd like to enter your question into the Q&A box, you can find that on your control panel. It says Q&A. You can enter questions in and we will be reading those aloud and having them answered. Anyone who's joining by phone or by computer and like to ask your question aloud, you can press *9 or the raised hand feature on the control bar to ask your question aloud, and we will call on people. And also for anyone in the room, please raise your hand, and Nick will be helping to facilitate asking the questions aloud so that people in the room as well as joining us virtually can hear. And just a reminder, we ask everyone to try and keep the questions focused on the drilling and blasting. If you do have other questions that are more general to the project, please feel free to contact the project team. We have our project website and email address up here on the website, and we will put that back up again after. So if anyone has questions that are less specific, please feel free to email us or call the hotline. I'll see if Nick, you have any questions in the room?
We do. Dr. Dwyer, I think we'll be able to hear you as well as me.
Sure. I know you said the schedule for the blasting will be communicated. I was wondering how that will be communicated. Is that on the website or emailed out individually to residents or places of business?
Yeah, I believe we'll do door-to-door communication if residents are within the 500-foot blast zone. We will leave flyers on their door to give them a relative idea of when the blasting will occur. And then if a certain residence is within 250 feet of the blast zone,
Recording in progress.
we will check door to door, make sure people are home or not home. And if they are home, just to make sure that they don't walk out their front door during that time frame when we're going to blast.
And how far in advance will you know that schedule? Since I have a school and I don't want students leaving the building.
Yes. As far as when we're going to start blasting, we still have paperwork and submittals to work through. So as soon as we get approved submittals and we get the go-ahead from the state and the city, then we can start submitting the schedules. As far as how soon in advance, I would say within a week prior to blasting.
Any other questions in the room? Should we open it up to folks online?
Sure. And if you do have more questions, come in the room once we go through the Q&A. I'll get back to you. Matt, could you please say more about utility shutoffs? When, for who, how long?
Sure. So this blasting is especially complicated because we have scenarios and situations where we have to keep existing water, sewer, storm, gas mains intact, functioning while we're blasting nearby. So what we need to do, especially for the water and the gas, is we're going to have the utility companies on shutoff valves on either side of where we're going to be blasting. So we will shut those utilities down 30 seconds before we blast, just to make sure that we don't want any uncontrolled breaks. And we want to be preactive rather than reactive. So we're going to shut those utilities down. We're going to blast and then open the utilities back up. And then if in a rare case that we find a leak, they're already on the valves, we can shut them back down and make those repairs quickly. So estimated anticipated shutdown between two valves, which could be anywhere from 200 to 500 feet along the street, could be as short as 30 minutes, as long as 2 hours.
All right, thank you. Next question. How many days of blasting can we expect?
I anticipate when we are released to start blasting, blasting will occur on and off all the way until winter. And then probably will resume back up in the spring until all the utilities are completed. And then we'll probably not have blasting for a while until we have to blast to get the proper depth of gravel in the roadway. There is some ledge inside the roadway subgrade on Shelburne Street, where we actually have to take the rock down in order to get the proper amount of gravel underneath the road. So in general, pretty much on and off throughout the project, but not as constant as what it will be this fall as soon as we get released.
All right, thank you. Say you live on the corner of Locust and Shelburne and need to leave your driveway. How long will you need to wait to leave if blasting is taking place? For example, how long before it's clear after each blast? How long does it take to prep?
Yeah, so in a zone of blasting, like I said before, we'll go to door, let those residents know that we're gonna be blasting in that 250-foot area. And allow them to leave, because let's say we go door to door an hour before we start the warning signals. That'll give the person the time to get their vehicle out of their yard. But typically, the blasting procedures and the warning whistles start 5 minutes before we actually blast. So we do a series of whistles for a 5-minute warning, I believe a 3-minute warning and a 1 minute. But yeah, in general, we'll go door to door in that immediate area.
Okay. Is there expected to be fracturing or damage of adjoining ledge bedrock? Is there a plan in place if the groundwater flow changes and causes flooding in basements or other issues?
That's a good question. Lonnie, do you want to answer what you would anticipate for exterior fracture of this type of rock?
Yeah, this is Lonnie. Typically, for the type of blasting that we're going to be doing, any disturbance outside that trench is only going to be a couple of feet. Where we're not going to be at great depths, any type of water flow or, type of damage like that is going to be very, very minimal. And any water, coming from rainstorms or anything like that, will be very easily to be under control, because it's going to go will go right down into the trench. As far as water damage happening into the basements, no, that will not occur.
Great, thank you. For the next question, we're probably about 700 feet away. Will we get warned and or be affected by utility shutoffs?
I would say I can't guarantee 100% that nobody's going to be affected. However, the blasting will occur in a localized area, and there's usually valves that work between the affected utilities that average between 250 to 500 feet, so that's really the localized shutdown that we would have for the utilities. And all the utilities outside that area, since all the utilities are on a looped system, there's always a backup feed from somewhere else.
Okay. I think we talked about this, but maybe a little bit more detail, or just to reiterate, how will you communicate utility shutoffs? How far in advance will you give notice? I worry about utility shutoffs since I work from home.
Yeah, so when we prior to when we blast, we're going to shut valves on the gas and the water mains. When the valves are shut, you're still going to have pressure, and it takes a certain period of time to drain the gas and the water out of those areas before you don't have any gas or water pressure. So if there's no utility breaks, you will not feel or experience any outages. If there is a utility break, again, 20 minutes to 2 hours would be my guess as far as when water or gas could be shut off. So, yeah.
Thank you. Will there be any overall design changes driven by the difficulty or cost of the ledge removal?
I can do that.
but
So this project was intended, this is Josh Willett speaking. The ledge was intended to be encountered, so it's already built into the overall project cost. We knew at the time that the project had to have the blasting of the rock that is going to take place. So currently, the cost of the project is as such, the cost of the project.
Thanks, Josh. How far down Locust Street might there be utility shutoffs?
I would say if there are any utility shutoffs, it would be down probably towards the park from the intersection of Shelburne Street. And again, we're hoping for short-term shutoffs if there is a utility broken during blasting. And that costs time and money, and that's the last thing we want to do.
All right. I think we may have touched upon this, but I think looking for more clarity. How frequently is on and off? I'm assuming that relates to the utilities. And how many days will we be impacted?
Blasting, again, I anticipate we'd be starting blasting probably early October and then running all the way through Christmas, probably until the first of the year, and then pick up again early spring for a month or two. So that's our schedule.
Okay. Can you please clarify if blasting will happen on Locust Ave or just Shelburne Road?
We have not found any ledge on Locust Street except up at the intersection of Shelburne Street. So at this time, we haven't found any ledge below the intersection of Shelburne Street West.
Great. And what kind of rock is being blasted? Can use be made of this blasted rock?
This blasted rock, we'll bring that back to our quarry in Williston, and we will crush it. And the rock, I believe it's called Moncton quartzite, and it's similar to the red rock that you see in a lot of the old buildings along Burlington. There used to be a quarry just off of Ledge Road and the adjoining road about 100 years ago.
When blasting is happening, do you believe it will be happening daily during that time period?
I would say October, November, some in December will probably be daily. Next spring, I can't really anticipate what we'd have for frequency. It all depends on how quick and how fast we can get the rock out of our way and get the utilities in.
All right. That is the questions we've received through the, oh, excuse me, I just received one more. Will residents be allowed to park on Locust Street while the blasting work is paused during the winter months?
It depends on what we get done on Locust Street as far as if we get the roadway gravelled, base paved and curbed. And I believe there's on-street parking, but limited on Locust Street in the future design. That's our intention before we demobilize for the winter, is we would like to get that street semi buttoned up with pavement and curbing.
I'm not sure if you answered this, so I apologize. But just to clarify, will blasting occur multiple times a day?
Lonnie, could you answer that, please?
Yeah, we're kind of hoping that we can, get up to at least 3 blasts a day. These blasts, they're going to be small. We're probably only talking, through the course of the day, we might be able to achieve of shooting 30 holes. So yeah, it'll be multiple times a day.
Thank you. How far up Ledge Road will the blasting potentially go?
We have not explored all of Ledge Road at this point. As far as the depths of top of Ledge. However, Ledge Road is called Ledge Road for a reason. So I would expect we will definitely have blasting on Ledge Road, and the project only goes up that roadway a couple hundred feet before our work is done. So.
Great. I don't seem to have it this time. Oh, it always comes in right as I'm about to say that. Is it possible you'll finish so much blasting in the fall that it doesn't have to be done in the spring?
We're definitely going to have some blasting done for the underneath the roadway. So not just for utilities. And that's only on Shelburne Street that we've identified at this point. And that phase of work occurs next year. This year, we're really trying to focus on utilities. Construction's like a layer cake. We start from the deepest utility and we work up. So yeah, we'll definitely have some blasting next year. When that's going to occur, I can't give you an exact time at this point.
Okay. And how long do you expect the blasting to be? Or excuse me, how loud? I misread.
Lonnie, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, the blasting is not very loud at all. The loudest bang that you're going to hear is going to be what is initiating the shot going off. All the surface delays and everything are going to be covered up by the mats. So you're going to hear just a low, you'll hear, it'd be like a 22 gun going off. That's what you'll hear. That'll be the loudest. And then everything else is just more of a low rumble. So no, not very loud at all.
Thank you. I did receive a couple comments not related to drilling and blasting. So I'd like to invite anyone who would like to share or have questions answered that are not related to drilling and blasting to email the project team at info@shelburnestreetroundabout.com, or you can call the hotline. So we do appreciate those. Or if you want to drop your email with your comment here, we'll get back to you if it's not related to the drilling and blasting. Thank you. Nick, do you have any other questions in the room?
We do. We have another one.
This is related to the blasting. I understand it has to be done from 9 to 3 p.m. Is there any way to communicate to Capital Rock Drilling and Blasting that there's a school that has dismissal from 2:40 to 3 where 200 vehicles are going to potentially come to the area? Can the blasting, majority of it be done before 2:30 to allow for this traffic flow?
Yes, we will work with you and as a good partner and try to work our schedules together so that
Thank you.
we don't impact your schedules and traffic.
Are there any other questions in the room?
I think that wraps it up for the room.
Okay, if anyone has any other questions that they'd like to put in the Q&A, we do want to allow everyone an opportunity to drop those questions in so we can share them and get answers. So we'll stay on a bit longer to make sure. Here we go. Will there be blasting on the weekends?
I don't think it's necessary to blast on weekends. There's plenty of other work to be done. So I don't expect that to happen.
Great. Again, anyone have any questions they'd like to drop in, please do so now. Or Nick, let me know if there's any more in the room.
You're good in the room.
Well, we'll wait a few moments longer. If there's any other questions that come in, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A. And we'd like to remind everyone, you're welcome to sign up for our project email updates if you don't receive them already. This includes construction updates and traffic alerts that we send out. The construction updates are sent out weekly and traffic alerts on an as-needed basis. So you can go to the project website and sign up for those. Also, if you have questions in the future after this meeting, whether it be blasting related or just general project questions or comments that you'd like to share with the team or have answers on, please email us at info@shelburnestreetroundabout.com, or you can call the project hotline. It's a 24-hour hotline, and we will get back to you. I did have another question come in. How far down Shelburne Road will the blasting go?
To the north, I would say I would anticipate blasting all the way to Marion Street. To the south, I would say the potential all the way to Adams Court.
We had a question here. I believe it was answered, but potentially this person jumped on late. Could blasting open up an aquifer and flood basements?
Lonnie, do you want to answer this? I think you answered it before.
Yeah, for the minimal depth that we're going to be going, no, we will not be encountering any aquifers. Any surface water, rain per se, all that will be directed down into the trench because that'll be the deepest area right there. And SD Ireland will have pumps already in those trenches to take care of that water issue to begin with. So yeah, no water getting into any of the basements due to blasting.
Great, thank you. How high up South Willard will blasting affect?
I would anticipate the potential for lead blasting from the intersection of Shelburne Street up South Willard, maybe 150 feet north of Chittenden Drive.
Thank you. Another question, will traffic be stopped during blasting, and who will be dealing with that when it happens? Is there anyone that's in charge of that?
Yes, so we are preparing a traffic control plan for the city and the state to review. Basically, we're proposing to stop traffic well in advance of any blasting areas. We're going to try to narrow it down to that 5-minute window prior to the blast so that we don't create too many backups or delays. And then in the event that we do have a utility break, such as a water break, and we have to shut down the roadway for any reason, we may have to, or will be prepared to utilize detours as needed to detour vehicles around the area.
Thank you. At this time, we have no new questions in. We'll give it just a minute longer in case there's something that someone wants to ask. And again, while we wait, I'll just reiterate, please sign up for project email notifications if you're interested. You can do this on the project website. If you rather just email us and ask to sign up for the updates, we can do that too. Please email us at info@shelburnestreetroundabout.com. And we do have the project hotline open, as well as the email address anytime for questions and comments related to the project. I am not seeing any new questions at this time. Nick, is there anything in the room?
I think we're ready to wrap up.
Wonderful. Well, I would like to thank sorry. I always see one as soon as I'm about to say something. Will blasting materials be stored on site?
Lonnie, do you want to take care of that one as far as how you keep secure blast caps and explosives?
Yeah, there'll be no explosives that will be stored on a job site. It'll arrive in the morning and we'll leave in the afternoon to our magazine sites over in Walcott, Vermont.
Thank you. Does SD Ireland or the project team have a set person in charge for traffic issues that come up, or will we be waiting for others to come handle the issues?
SD Ireland has a traffic team on site daily that does handle traffic issues, fixing any issues that may arise. And then if certain residents are concerned about how traffic is set up or have suggestions that they would like to make, they can email at the info@shelburnestreetroundabout.com, and somebody will get back to them immediately.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm not seeing any more on my end, although it's always a surprise when one pops up. But if there are no other questions, we will wrap up the meeting for tonight.
Ilya, can I just add on the last question about the traffic issues that the outreach that WSP is doing for the project team also has the ability, if something comes up as it relates to any construction activities, if you're on the email list, we have the ability to reach out to you with any significant changes. The city also participates in VT Alert. And so if there is another significant issue, you are able to sign up for that. You will get a blast if there's something related to this project where you would either get a text, an email, or another message. So those are other ways that we already have in place to reach out if there are any significant changes related to the project.
Thank you, Laura. Again, reiterate if anyone wants to sign up for those updates that Laura mentioned, including the traffic alerts for any unanticipated changes to the traffic patterns, please visit the project website or email us at info@shelburnestreetroundabout.com. That email address can also be used for questions or comments related to general information about the project at any time throughout the project. And if that seems to be all the questions we have, we will wrap up the meeting for tonight, but we do want to thank everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time. We appreciate all the questions you have to ask, and we look forward to continuing this project successfully. And again, we will end for tonight. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great night.